Today, we have a real treat in the studio, none other than Michael Perry. I'll give a quick bio on Michael. So Michael is the co-founder of the Perry Group, one of the top producing real estate agencies in the state of Utah and across the country. With over $1 billion in real estate transactions, Michael is verified in the top 1% of all Utah real estate professionals. Michael has a team of over 50 real estate agents and specializes in luxury real estate in the Salt Lake Valley. Welcome in, dude.
I'll take it. I'll take the intro.
Is that accurate?
Yeah,
enough?
It's accurate.
Yeah, good.
Thank
dude.
you. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Of course. Thanks for coming, man. Well, this is great. I've heard awesome things about your group and been super impressed just in kind of the research and listening to a couple of their podcasts on the Perry Group and what you've done, especially at such a young age, man. So how old are you right now?
26.
26.
I think so. When I get asked that question, I'm like, am I 22? Am I 27?
Yeah,
26
flies.
today, I think.
Yeah, man, and doing over 1 billion. That's super impressive. Well, kind of the first question I usually ask my guests is just to help us understand what we should know about your upbringing, whether it's, childhood, high school days, parents or influence you had to establish kind of who you are today.
Yeah, totally. I think I would say just a normal upbringing. What a lot of people don't know about me, my dad was a pastor in Salt Lake City of a Christian church, and then my mom was a teacher. She still is a teacher. She's about to retire. So it was just a normal life, good parents, great parents, amazing parents. I have one brother who's one of the smartest people in the world. And it was just, for me, it was sports. Like that was just that was my friends. That's how my friends are today, through sports and all that. But yeah, just a normal life in Sugar House and in Salt Lake City. And then we got here today.
There you go. What sports did you play?
Football. Yeah, football. Okay. And as a kid, I played all of them, like football, basketball, soccer. But football was the one that I'm still interested in, and a driver. But yeah,
there you go, man.
Yeah.
That's great. Cool. So you came out of Salt Lake. Did you go to college, or what was kind of the next steps coming out of high school?
Yeah. So I went to a junior college for football in California, and then transferred to Snow. Played football there for a little bit. That didn't work out, but that's and I'll dive into that. I think that's a massive reason who I am today. And I think that's something I wanted to work out more than anything in life.
Really?
Yeah, was football and being an athlete. And it didn't work out at all. And so I think for me, that's even speaking here, like I can taste that feeling of like, it's not failure looking back, but like it still kind of is. And so I think that's what makes me tick.
So what position did you play?
Receiver.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk us through that a little bit more, dude. So it sounds like from high school, you had set your mind on football was the end all be all, or to some extent, right?
Yeah.
So you went out to California and then transferred over. But talk us through a little bit like the struggle there and the detail and kind of overcoming that challenge.
Yeah. It was a couple things. I was always injury ridden. Even from high school, it was torn patellar tendon, shoulder injuries, broken bones, all that stuff. And then like mentally, I just, one of my best friends is in the NFL today. And it's like still to this day, I get more nervous for him than he does. And he's the one playing. And so I think mentally I always struggled. And that I can't pinpoint because I don't mentally struggle like in real estate. Like I don't get nervous in real estate at all. So I hope my kids don't have it one day when we do have kids, but that was just kind of something that was like, man, sitting in bed, nervous, like, hey, like, why isn't this working out? Just overthinking everything.
Yeah. I feel like, part of a lot of the entrepreneurial journeys that I hear is there's always a point in someone's life where you just hit a wall or a huge setback. Yeah. And it's like, you've got to have the mental fortitude to overcome that. So, when you were there, whether it was it like you didn't make the team or your injury or whatever happened, like what was it that helped you look for the next step or overcome kind of that huge setback mentally?
Yeah. So basically I was at Snow my second year and I tore my knee patellar tendon. And then things actually started to go really well. And so we had spring practice, and that's when I was like, mentally I was starting to do better. And then the last day of spring practice, I tore my patellar tendon again.
Dang.
And so that was like, looking back, one of the weirdest, most peaceful moments. And like, not even talking like Zen, any of that. Like, it was just like, it's something I've struggled and wanted so bad, and then got clarity instantly. Because it wasn't like I'm year 2 at a junior college and I just tore my knee again. It's like, I'm not going round 3 again.
Yeah.
And so that was a really cool, like, looking back, that absolutely was for a reason, but that was a weird feeling just because it snapped it. Like, it snapped one journey and smacked it right into another.
Yeah. It's interesting how you can sometimes find peace even in those, crazy moments of setback, and just kind of knowing that everything is happening for a reason.
Yeah.
At some point.
Totally.
Well, cool, dude. So, did you end up graduating at Snow or finishing school? And then what did you do after that? And
no. So, I mean, that was, and I think that's why it was peaceful. I mean, my life was football, and then 6 hours later it wasn't. So like, and what was weird, that was the last day of spring practice. And so it was like, you're off for the summer. And so everything just aligned. So I think I had my real estate license 31 days later. I literally went home. I was like to my parents, I'm going to try this. Like, I'm not going back to school. I hate school.
Got it.
And so I signed up for my real estate license. 31 days later, had my license, and then it was just pedal to the metal. I was going.
And why real estate? Like, what was it that, made you want to do that?
I think it was just the opportunity, and I don't have a crazy cool why I picked real estate. Like, I wish I did, but my dad was in real estate. He was a solo agent for, I think, 13 years.
Okay.
Or 8 years before I got in. And so it was just like, he seems like he likes it. I'll try it out.
Yeah.
So
That's good. And were you down? So Snow is down south, right? And that's Cedar.
Like 2 hours. It's an hour from here, so like 2 hours south of Salt Lake City.
So did you move back up to Salt Lake with your license and kind of start at that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, immediately.
All right. So which group were you with? Were you just flying solo once you got your license? How did it start?
Yeah, and that's what's so cool, and I make sure like every time I tell it, because it was so organic. Like, my dad was a real estate agent for 8 years. I got in with one of my best friends who wasn't in real estate. Like, we didn't have any vision or passion for real estate. It was just like, hey, let's try this. And so I joined Keller Williams, the brokerage, and we literally just like showed up every single day. No vision of a team, no vision of, hey, like, I need X money here so I can put it there and then start a business. It was just accountability, like really good friends, my dad, just 3 of us, like going to work every day. And then we look back and it's like, whoa, we didn't plan for this, but that's what I beg people, especially like you see on Instagram and podcasts, like, oh, they have everything figured out. It's like us, we didn't. Like, I didn't even have a passion for this. And now I'm very passionate, but it's cool. It's cool to have it evolve that way.
That's great. And I think, to your point, like, a lot of times people feel like they have to be extremely passionate about something to start or go into that field. And I don't know who it was. Maybe it was Mark Cuban or someone. It's like, during the day I go make money, and at night I do my hobbies or like play basketball. Totally. Like do the things I want to do. And so I don't know, like I definitely feel like you should have interest and want to do what you're doing, 9 to 12 hours a day. Yeah. But sometimes it's just about starting and making a buck and being successful at something and then, figuring it out along the way. And
yeah, I completely agree. And it was really weird being so passionate about something like football. I would do anything for that to work. Mm-hmm. And then to just walk into something. And it was weird to like take the same mindset of like, hey, I'm going to treat it like how I treated sports. I'm going to work like crazy for it. And it's been a blessing to be this passionate, because I couldn't imagine like doing something that I don't love doing long term. Yeah. But yeah, it's just cool that it was organic.
So it's you, your dad, and a buddy, Keller Williams. So how did you guys, what was your focus at first? Was it, Salt Lake Valley? Were you specific on, how large of homes you wanted to look at, the price range, clients?
Yeah.
What was the strategy? Was it just shotgun?
Shotgun.
Yeah.
There was no strategy.
Yeah.
And so we got in, we kind of did these like weird team splits that I would never recommend again. And it was just, we kind of all split our deals 3 ways. We bought Zillow leads, which everyone knows Zillow. And so I think we signed a contract, a 6-month contract that was $1,000 for every month.
Okay.
And we were like, how do we pay this kind of thing? And we were like, my dad can help us. He can float us for a little bit. Mm-hmm. But it was just, how do we make that bank account fund that? And so it was, we closed deal 1 and then deal 5 and then deal 15. And I was like, hey, we have a model. Let's go get a 4th person.
Yeah.
And then it was just a snowball
So
effect.
the Zillow leads, what are those? Like, is that like people who are looking for homes?
Yeah. It's literally a consumer from anywhere in the world on a computer. They're on Zillow because that's where the search engine of homes is in the world. And so if you want to see 123 Main Street, you click, hey, I'm interested. And then boom.
And then you get their email or whatever.
Yeah, live transfer. Yep.
You can call them. So you're reaching out to them kind of cold. I mean, it's like warm in a way, but
it's a
they
warm
don't know
of
you.
Yeah, they have no idea who we are. So it's, hey, nice to meet you, Michael. And then I'm selling myself, I guess.
And were you guys the listing agent on those homes that they were kind of searching for? It just any home, wherever they were, and then you just hit them up, and you'd be like, "Hey, are you looking for a home?"
Totally.
And you just guide them. That
And
way.
in everything, and that's what was so cool. Like we realize now we were guided and mentored by like literally some of the best in the country today, and we had no clue. Like we were just like, hey, how do we do this? And we'll figure this out together. And so that was really awesome. And that's why I like, even in business, I think the only thing that matters, not the only thing, one of the only things is customer service. And like that's all we focused on, from 3 of us to 80 of us. It was like, yeah, we don't, if it's a pain, cool. But if it helps the customer, if it makes it a more pleasant experience,
That's great.
We're going to do it.
And I love that you guys spent the money on those leads when you were strapped, because so similar situation that I'm in with Park West. So we just spent $6,000 for a year long, basically a membership in this group that provides leads for like family offices and wealthy individuals across the country as prospective investors in deals.
That's super cool.
And so it's like a big database, and then there's events and networking and things like that. But when you got to sign up to spend $1,000 a month or $6,000 for the year, it's like it's a big investment.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you've got to spend money to make money.
Totally.
And I've struggled with that, dude. Not about you, but like I've been very hesitant on like masterminds or classes or courses to like, oh, why should I spend money to go learn from somebody who maybe doesn't know as much as me, or I perceive that they don't know as much as me. But it's like you just, it goes back to that point. Like you kind of got to spend money to make money and be willing to, to do those things. Yeah. So you mentioned mentors. Were you referring to people at Keller Williams or people in the office that you were working with, or who were those mentors that helped your? Yeah.
So people within the office, 100%. I mean, still to this day, we're not with Keller Williams anymore, but I mean, there are some absolute legends over there. And then we had who I believe like was one of the best Zillow reps in the country, and just basically one of the top people in the company as far as helping, guiding. And so we had no clue when we were being trained by her. Her name's Audrey, and we were literally just doing the thing. And then we look back, and it's like we were all just in Vegas for the Zillow conference. It's nice. It's a really cool moment to be like, we all kind of were just like doing the thing together 4 or 5 years ago, and like in a prideful, like now we're here. Like it was a cool retrospect moment.
That's great.
For sure.
Yeah. Those early mentors are so important. And getting that guidance, it can save just tons of time.
Yeah.
Yes. Help
Amen
you
to that.
Okay, cool. So you're Keller Williams, you start getting traction. You guys are, so how long were you under the Keller Williams umbrella, and how much did you guys grow during that time?
I think we were 2.5 years. Yeah, 2.5 years, and then we grew to like 32 people.
Wow.
Yeah, and then so that was unbelievable, and then we switched, and we're now, I think today we're at 81 agents.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So I understated that in my in your bio there.
Yeah,
58.
We've grown quickly in the past
great.
2 months because I think we're getting used to the market.
So how does it work, dude? When you are under Keller Williams and you have your own team under there, because they're just a brokerage, right? You need the license and you need the house, like, but you're still able to have, you know, team members, and do those commissions all like roll up to you as kind of the head of the group?
Yeah. So basically, you can be placed under a big umbrella brokerage like we're at Real today. You can be at Real, EXP, Coldwell, Keller, or you can go independent. We chose not to go independent for like the lawsuits and the legalities of it.
Okay.
And so for us, like Real broker, they have to get their portion of the deal first, which is a small fee.
Okay.
And then that's where our team operates as an umbrella under there.
So the real brokerage or whoever it is, Keller, they help set up I guess they have the brand, they have the entity, they have the legal, some of the back office stuff probably.
100%.
That makes it easy for you guys. So they just get kicked. So if you sell a house and you make $100,000 commission, you're sending them whatever, something.
Yeah. I mean, it's literally 12,000. So 12,000 per year.
Okay.
And so sometimes that takes 3 deals, sometimes it takes 10.
Yeah, got it. Okay,
yeah.
Makes sense. All right, so then how did you guys decide to start the Perry Group? What was that decision process like?
Yeah, I think it just goes back to what I said earlier. Like we bought a Zillow lead or Zillow leads together, and then we were like, wow, we feel like we really have a model. Let's bring people in. Mm-hmm. And so like even looking back, it wasn't, and that's what I beg like teams, leaders. It's like it was still organic. It was like, we have no idea what we're doing. Let's try this kind of thing. And so it was really about like, we got to like 8 people and we were like, hey, we're actually messing with people's lives. Like if we don't have a business plan and structure.
Yeah.
And so it was at that point where we're like, it's gone incredible for everyone who's come into our organization. We've helped them. Let's do it at a big scale. And then at that point, it was just a math equation. And that's when we got super disciplined, hired a director of operations, and it's just lead flow. We have X amount of leads to take it to the next level. And why I think it's important to tell the story of how small we started. We now spend $200,000 a month on leads.
Wow.
And so it's not typically that's the first part that people hear from me. Like, I'll be speaking at a conference. Oh yeah, we spend this much money. But it's like, no, it was only 2-3 years ago where we were spending 0.5% of that. So,
yeah. 200,000. Wow. That's significant. And that's all kind of Zillow. Is that Zillow leads as well?
Yeah.
Wow. And just creating that deal flow.
Yeah. 100%.
Cool, man. How do you manage that many reps? I mean, so what is your role? Like, how do you fit in the puzzle with 80, I guess, reps? Do they all report up to you? How
So we kind of have, I guess I would call myself the co-CEO. There's three owners of the Perry Group. It's me, my brother, my dad. So my dad and I act as CEO, and then my brother is chief of technology, like the behind the scenes, everything. So yeah, that's my role. And then I still sell because I love it. I think it's addicting.
Well, how do you split your time? I mean, between doing showings with clients and then managing like the office and, the CEO stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm super leveraged, and it's a dangerous game to play if you don't have people you trust, but luckily I do. And so I have an assistant who I trust her with the world. So she manages and handles most of my like day-to-day real estate operations. And then also she handles a ton of my like Perry Group operations. So it's pretty split. Most of my morning is Perry Group, wearing the CEO hat. Yeah. And then the other part is real estate agent and flipping and designing and all that stuff.
Cool. Yeah, I want to dive into kind of that side. So what property types are you guys focused on? And then, in addition to that, are you involved in doing flips or investing yourself? How does that all fit in?
Yeah. So I think for for our market is the Perry Group. We are heavily in Salt Lake, Davis, and Utah County, Salt Lake being the number one county. Okay. And it's purely just residential. I think it's a different world. We tried to do our own commercial lease for a little bit. I was like, I never want to do this again. So I admire commercial. I have a ton of respect for the development piece and all of that, but it's not our lane. It's a much different lane. And then for me, my wife and I think we're on our like 10th flip.
Wow.
We love it. And our focus is like super high end, or super high end for Salt Lake speaking. Just luxury flips.
Really?
Yeah.
So yeah, well, I'd love to hear you walk us through like a case study, like a deal that you've done lately, where it was, what you paid for it, like how that whole process went down, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, totally. It's been really cool. I think I'm going to start to do, I hate the term classes and masterminds because I feel like online it's so like, oh, here's my course. But so we bought a deal. I'll give two real quick.
Yeah.
We bought a deal for $900,000 13 months ago, and we just sold it for 2.4.
Wow.
It was a month ago. And so and we spent 400 on it, 450. But that was really cool because it was like, this was the first test. It's like, hey, are we as good as we think we are, like flipping houses, or was it the pandemic?
Sure.
Like, did the pandemic make us think we were a lot better at it because house value skyrocketed?
Yeah.
And so the market, I mean, it turned on us. It went 180 on us, and we still got what we thought we were going to get. And so that leads into the next deal. We just went under contract about 10 days ago, and we're closing on it. It's a couple streets away. But it's a really cool feeling. I mean, it's going to be the same price, same entry, same exit, but our focus is just like super limited inventory and just buying like where we think the buyers are never going to leave.
Yeah.
And we think that's a high-end product where the inventory is truly limited.
I like that approach, dude, because I feel like when you think of flipping, in most cases, you're talking about like, 2-bedroom homes out in West Valley, or, you know what I mean? Stuff that's just older, and you have to gut it. And so are these houses you're buying, are they older vintage, like, or are they relatively newer, or is it?
No, they're old. I mean, anywhere from.
But they're in good areas.
Yeah. And so that's like, I would never in my life flip in Utah County. Number one, because I don't know it. And number two, it's like where most of the money is, I feel like, is new. Like new builds, these mega mansions, and we're out of land in Salt Lake, and so that's where I think it's like it's probably what you do every day. Like if you can underwrite and see the deal,
right?
That's where the buyer is. So yeah, I mean, we bought a 1898 home. I think this one we're about to do is 1958.
1958. Okay, so the one you guys sold was built in 1898, or
one of them. Yeah, the other one was built in 1970. That we sold for 2.4. Yeah.
Okay. So 1970, and it's like, I imagine East Bench or Sugar House or somewhere in a nicer neighborhood.
Yeah. So it's 2 miles east of Sugar House, like on the mountainside.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you buy in for 900, you put 450 to 500 in. And what was the scope of the renovation? Is that like full blown?
Oh yeah. It was like brutal.
Kitchen. Yeah. I mean, everything.
Yeah. No, it was, I say a joke, but it's not a joke. The only old thing in that house was the brick, and we left a furnace. So there was an old furnace and brick, but new framing, electrical, wiring, plumbing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not for the faint.
Yeah, for sure.
It's tough.
And is that just you? Are you managing most of that process? I imagine, like, who's your team? Like,
totally.
How are you getting it done?
Yeah, so I think for me, I would say I co-manage it we hired a project manager. And so we're doing that. And then my wife does everything design. And so I try and voice my opinion. And it's kind of like I would say we've found a really good balance of like, hey, stay in your lane. I'm going to stay in mine.
Sure.
And so like literally the deal we just bought, she didn't want it. She was like, no, we're not buying another house. The market's crashed. Like, no. And I was like, babe, look at the numbers. And so I brought her back again. She said no. I was like, and her dad's an architect. So we brought him up. he was like, "Hey, I see the vision." I was like, "So you have the vision and the numbers." And then, but what's cool, there's the give and take of like, I would never override her if she said no, and she would never override me. Like, it's like,
It's good policy.
yeah. And so then it's like, hey, I got the deal. It's on you to create the design.
Yeah.
And she will.
That's
So,
good teamwork, man.
Yeah.
And let's talk about financing these, right?
Yeah.
So 900 grand's not a small chunk of change,
No.
and then another $500,000 going in.
Totally.
The biggest barrier to entry I think people have is getting, financing. And so how are you pulling that off?
Yeah, so a couple things. So this one we'll do a hard money loan. On the previous ones, we have a really good friend who's fronted the cash, and we've done a 50-50 split. And I think the biggest piece of advice is find a market. Like, let's just say you want to do flips. Find a market and then really understand your market. And I think that's when the money and people want to invest. Because it's not, I mean, I could throw up on Instagram and raise $1 million just because the track record.
Mm-hmm.
But it took project after project after project of saying like, hey, I really know this area. Will you trust me? And then you have to deliver.
Yeah.
So there's a billion ways you can finance, but it's really, does someone trust you enough to give you their money?
Right. That's the key.
Yeah.
So with the individual who lent you guys the money for a 50-50 split, it was just that simple. They said, hey, we'll do the 100% of the purchase price, 100% of the renovation. You guys were kind of sweat equity, boots on the ground.
Yeah.
50-50 of any profit.
Yeah. So it was a little different. So she fronted it. Then we said we'd split the rehab. We were way over budget, like way over budget. So I'm like, that was my fault. So I ate that.
Got it.
So we paid that. We paid, I think, probably 75-80% of the reno, and then we 50-50 split the profit.
Got it. And then how's it going to work with the hard money loan? Is that purely just an interest rate?
Yeah, just an interest rate, and then we'll take 100% of profit after obviously paying the interest.
And are they going to do 100% of the purchase price, or 80, or what?
It's like 87.
87.
Yeah, I really, I know it doesn't make a ton of financial sense for me, but I hate not having skin in the game when I have people's money.
Sure.
Just so I like to have a piece of like, hey, like I want my money back too, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure. And then
Yeah.
on the reno costs, are they going to fund a piece of that as well, or is that
they would have. They offered, but I was like,
you wanted to
yeah,
take it yourself?
We got it.
Cool, man. And that's like a private individual, just relationship guy, or is that like
relationship.
hardloanmoney.com or something?
No,
like
no,
that?
relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100, and that's what I recommend. And I didn't do it for so long. I mean, I stayed away from hard money loans just because I think you hear hard money. Like, I'm sure hardmoneyloan.com is something,
Sure.
and it sounds scary.
yeah, totally.
And
right.
that's why I stayed away from it. And then you really just start to talk to people, meet with people, and then it's, hey, let's do a deal.
Yeah, I like that, dude. I mean, building relationships and the trust and the track record.
Yeah.
And that I mentioned the investor thing. I mean, that's my partner. So my partner's name's Justin Hafen. Both of us come from institutional real estate backgrounds. So we spent the last 5-6 years working at big firms doing like really big deals. But still, even with kind of that resume or track record, you have to have relationships. And you have to know your stuff cold and just be able to sell people.
Yeah.
Because even if you have a certain skill set and you have experience, it's still a matter of relationships and selling.
Yeah.
You've got to be good at that.
And it goes both ways too. I think from the relationship, like how we raise money now is like, hey, and it obviously if they can underwrite it too. Like I don't want to be like, hey, trust me kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But it's like if you want to give me your money, like if you've came to me and said, hey, I want to give you money to do a flip. And then I say, this is the deal. This is how confident we are. And then like, you're going to fight me on it. It's like, no, we're good. Like, I don't want to have to fight with you at all. It's like, hey, I want to give you money because you're going to perform and deliver verse. I think you see that a lot where it's, oh yeah, I want to give you money. And then, okay, it's time.
Yeah.
Give me your money.
Yeah.
And then they're like, let me underwrite it. So
yeah, for sure. I think the best investors are those who, again, going back to trust. It's like they trust you. They're not going to be calling you every day.
Yeah.
How's it going? Like, how's my money? You know, are you going to send me anything this week? Like, obviously you want to perform and be great with your investors and have a relationship, but I think those are the best types. So talking about the real estate market. Yeah. How is the last, 9 months kind of as the market shifted with interest rates going up and things slowing down a little bit?
Totally.
How has that impacted you guys, and what's your outlook?
It's I don't know. I think it's crazy. I think it's such a day to day. I mean, there were probably the previous 3 months until the past couple of weeks, we were pretty grim on it. We were like, there's not really any indicators that it's going to go well. Mm-hmm. And I think from many residential real estate agents, you hear like, oh, date the rate, marry the house. It's like, no, that's garbage. Yeah. Like, don't do that. That could go very badly for you. But it's inventory starting to go down again, which is interesting in Salt Lake City. Rates are down a little bit. I think people are getting used to it. So it was for sure like the bullwhip effect, like, hey, like something really bad's happening. How long is it going to last? Mm-hmm. And then prices went down a little bit, and I think they're starting to flatten. And now I don't think we see hey, we're back to a seller's market. Yeah. But I do think you for the next year or two, we'll see a market to where it's balanced.
Yeah, that's great. And you're still bullish, I'm sure, on Salt Lake City in general. Are there certain areas you think are going to outperform others across the valley? Yeah,
and I think it's where the buyers are. And that's why we're so confident with flips right now. It's like I'll just give an area of Sugar House, for example. Mm-hmm. Sugar House got to really where the average like nice home, 4-bedroom, 2-bath was near 900 million, like to $1 million for a nice house, 2,200 square feet. And you look at that 6 months later, and it was like, oh my goodness, that was hyperinflated. Mm-hmm. And the buyers, we don't think are going to go back there anytime soon for those prices. But you look for an area where it's either entry level, there's going to be tons of buyers. And I think commercial and the development that's happening will rise prices. But luxury is still on fire in Salt Lake. And I think that's a really interesting that's showing that there's a lot of money coming into Salt Lake that's saying, hey, we're going to park it here for a long time. Yeah. Which I did not think was going to happen. I mean, that was the last thing I predicted.
Right.
Because I thought when it fleed, it would all flee.
Because, you've got all I still think there's probably still a fair amount of in-migration from wealthy people come from California who are selling a $5 million house and can buy a $2.5 million house here in Salt Lake or whatever, no issue. And those areas you mentioned, like East Bench, Sugar House, like those are the places where everybody wants to live. If you've got some good money. Cool, dude. Well, kind of high level, backing up a little bit, why did you, I guess, coming out of college and even kind of getting Perry Group off the ground, what was it that inspired you, or why did you decide to go down an entrepreneurial route as opposed to, hey, football didn't work out, I'm going to go get a sales job at a tech company or, be an account executive somewhere? Why kind of entrepreneurship? Yeah.
And I think it's kind of funny because me and my brother are wildly different people, but I think where we're very similar is working for somebody has never been what we love to do. And I'm not against it by any means, at all, but it was just I'm ADD. I got to kind of do my thing. And so it was, I'm just going to start it. And then once we saw the money that was coming in, and it wasn't any grand levels, but it was man, how many people can we take care of? And that's literally what it was. It was, how many clients can we take care of and their families? And then it turned it took a completely different lane. And it was how many agents can we bring in and change their life, 180 it. And so I think that's really what got us going down the route. And it was, I think the success early on was the reason we started to take it so serious, because it was we feel like we hit the jackpot. So let's do it the right way.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I can understand that when you have that first smell of success or taste of success
Yeah.
where you're like, this could get real, like,
Yeah.
and it could get really good,
Yes.
really quickly. So that's awesome, dude. And I like your approach of basically helping others, right? Like
Yeah.
building something from the ground up and providing, wealth or income or benefits to other people so that they can provide for their families.
Totally.
It's a good way to approach it.
Yeah.
And probably unique kind of in the space, which is awesome. Well, dude, speaking of money, how do you think about money? Because I mean, you've obviously had a ton of success.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're killing on some of these flips. Like,
Totally.
how do you view money? What are you investing in right now? Like, what's kind of that mindset for you?
That's a deep question. How do I view money? It's I think money's a tool and an engine. I think my mom is a teacher who, like, if I attribute who I am today, it's for sure my mom. And she always reminds me every day, because teachers don't make a ton of money, not every day, but that money's not everything. And I absolutely don't think it is, but I think it's a driver for opportunity. And so that's how I view money, is just a tool to provide a different life for people. And then what I'm doing with my money, I'm probably way too bullish on real estate. It's like everything's real estate. And I have stocks and all that fun stuff, but I think for me, it's really investing in the long term of what I think is happening in Salt Lake. And I'm pure single family, which my friends tell me is stupid all the time, because I have friends in development and all that, but it's where I know it really well. So that's where it's going.
Apart from your flip projects, do you have like any rentals? Is that part of your strategy?
Yeah. So I have our single family, or our primary house, and then I have 2 rentals. And then for me, I think we'll keep doing the luxury flips, because I definitely see an argument on like, hey, do these small flips so you can invest in apartments or syndicates and all that. But I think for us, it's like we found our niche in like the super high end market. And it's like when you get calls back from the people who own the apartments, like, hey, you're getting these returns. It's like, I feel like we've found something. Yeah. And until we're super careful, so we'll never be leveraged with that. Like, we'll never have 2, 3, 4 of them going on, because the market could change. It could change really badly.
Sure.
But for us, can we do 1, 2 high-end ones at a time and turn them.
Well, that's great. I mean, you've got a niche, dude. And if you've got the expertise in that area, and I think there's something to be said about, I think as great as investing into like a passive deal or syndication can be, there's something to be said, I think, about just owning the process, right?
Yeah.
And knowing it cold and being able to control the entire thing. It's kind of nice. Right? It probably helps you sleep a little bit at night.
Yeah.
Knowing you've got the ultimate say.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure it's polar opposite of what your world is, but it's exactly like, I'm a huge believer, and especially if it's your work, just like sticking to 1, 2, or 3 things and being really good at it versus, like, I think you hear on Instagram, hey, I need 7 to 10 money income strategies or whatever. Right. And which I'll probably have one day. Yep. But for us right now, it's like, if you're really good at something, you're going to get paid. Yeah. Like, and that's a casual statement and streety, but like, you're going to do really well if you're really good at something. And so that's why we're dipping our hands in only a couple things.
Couldn't agree more, man. I see that a lot, as you mentioned on social media. It's like, you got to have 10 income streams and start multiple businesses and multiple side hustles.
Yeah.
And I think that can be pretty detrimental, actually,
yes.
Especially when someone's getting off the ground, or like when you look at some of the most successful people, they went all in on one thing. And
yes.
It's like, the founders of Apple or Google, or like, big companies out there. It's like it was all in on that company from ground zero. And then once you make some money, then it's like, okay, now I can diversify a little bit, or maybe I'll go start this business or invest in this business. So
well, and people don't always trust it. Like, I think you I'm telling people like crazy, like, look at Elon Musk right now. It's like Tesla, the stock at least is doing brutal because it's like he's so good at a couple things, and then he buys Twitter, and people are like, what? So they're like, so is he really the CEO for Tesla?
Yeah,
and I think he will be, but it's like people trust the helm when you're really good and just doing it.
Yeah, I love it, dude. So what are the next 3-5 years look like for you and the Perry Group? Kind of what's the goal?
I think for me it's relax a little bit. My wife and I think it's been pedal to the metal, go, go, go. And I think we've built something really cool, but it's definitely like, hey, like there's a little more to life than money. So relaxing, I think refining our skills and tools with the Perry Group, with Flips. And then I think it's, and this isn't me saying the Perry Group like just being better, but it's, okay, the market has changed on us when we did not think it would, and we survived. I mean, obviously it's not done, but we survived out of it. Like, how can the worst thing that could have happened, I think happened to us like overnight as far as a market changed that quick.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of going forward, okay, that bad thing, quote unquote, didn't affect us. And so how can we take market share and for percentages, just sell way more houses? And we're going to do that through people.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, within Utah, there's a lot of real estate agents and competitors.
There's like 28,000 of us.
Is there?
Yeah. It's stupid. It's nuts.
28,000.
Yeah. There's 28,000 of me.
Wow. So yeah, how do you view competition? Like, I know you guys are, where do you rank? Aren't you like, we're number one, or are you number one?
Yeah.
I mean,
we're number one.
So your team is the highest producing team in the state of Utah, right?
Yeah. Correct.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, how do you look at competition? When you look at other groups out there, are you always sizing each other up? Do you kind of ignore them?
No, for me, it's I'm competitive, and I think it goes back to sports background. So, yeah, I'm always sizing them up. And about a year ago, it got super unhealthy. I was like, what am I doing? Like, it's 1 a.m. and I'm searching stats, us versus them.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why? And I had a good friend he posted on social media, it was, if you're always comparing, you're going to be second soon. Sure. And I was like, oof, that's literally me as I scroll right now.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I think competition is healthy until it's unhealthy. Mm-hmm. And so trying to stay on top, trying to innovate, but also knowing like, hey, there's a place for people to do really well in their space. Yeah. And can we help them get there, or can we appreciate how they got there? Can we learn from them? So yeah, I'm a little bit too competitive, but it's also like there's going to be another Perry Group one day. Yeah. And it'd be ignorant to not think that would happen.
Right. So, yeah. I think that's a good balance and approach, because I've seen groups that are super closed off or cold towards a competitor, and that, like, they won't even want to get lunch with them or share anything about what they're doing. And it just gives up a bad vibe, and that kind of gets out into the market, right? It's like, hey,
how is it in your world? Is it go to lunch and share, or not really?
It depends on the group. Like, we've interacted with some groups that are like, hey, completely closed door. Like, they don't want to talk about any of their processes or their network or anything. And then there are groups that are open Komodo and want to partner, want to create synergies. Like, hey, we'd love to do a deal with you guys as co-partners, and let's talk about how we can create synergies. And so I think it's better to err on the side of, being partnerly and creating networks and creating relationships, because it's a small world. I mean, especially like, and I'm sure here it's like everybody probably knows kind of everybody within the real estate space. Yeah. And so you turn somebody off or have a bad relationship or put a sour taste in someone's mouth, it'll come around at some point. So anyway, I think that's a good balance, dude. Well, last couple of questions, man. What's when you think about entrepreneurship or somebody wanting to make a jump to start their own company or do their own thing, but have been hesitant for whatever reason, like what's a piece of advice that you'd give to someone who has that desire to be an entrepreneur and wants to do their thing?
Yeah, I think it's just one step in front of the other, but I think the perspective of there is no other option. And I think that like looking back at my career and some of the other entrepreneurs I've seen who've done really well, they haven't necessarily had the business plan laid out, but there was no question of the amount of work they were going to put in, followed by the commitment level. And so I think I see entrepreneurs all the time to where it's like, I have the business plan, I have everything figured out, and then it doesn't work. Like day 28, something different happened. And their commitment, it wavers. And so I think my biggest advice, it's really hard, but it's not as hard as it looks in different perspectives. Like I have some struggles that I never thought would happen, but there's been success that was way easier than I thought. So I truly think it's just commitment. And do you actually have the savings and the people to say, hey, like, go out and do it?
Yeah,
for sure.
That's great advice. I couldn't agree more. I think a lot of people get the analysis paralysis going.
Yes.
Like I've got to have it all figured out,
yeah,
and know everything about everything, and then I'll do it.
Yeah.
And
like I give the example, it's like, and this isn't, I mean, you could twist this to where it's very motivational, but it's like I had $23 in my bank account. I lived with my parents. There was no option.
Yeah.
And that was by default. Like, what am I going to do? Go work at McDonald's, or am I going to take this real estate thing serious?
Yeah.
And so I also think that's a super dangerous option. It's like, hey, if you have money, and just like you said, you're doing so many analysis on everything. But for me and for us and for the three of us, it was just like, hey, like this has to work. Like it literally has to work for us to make money. So
yeah, I love it, dude. That's great. Well, last thing I've got for you, Michael, when you think about success in your life and kind of looking back, I mean, what do you envision, or what does success feel like or look like to you?
Yeah, I think it's about the amount of people you can impact, and I think this answer, I mean, it changes so often for me, but it's like, how many people can I impact? How happy can I be? But like, I think for right now, it's like, can I be the same person I am around my wife as I am to every person in my business? And I think like that's success if I can be. And so I think it's just working to find balance of like extreme business success and then happiness. Cause I think it's a really hard, like my wife and I were just in Palm Springs, and we were in our hotel at 9:30 working on a deal. And it's like, this is fun and electric, but is it really what we should be doing? Yeah. And it didn't cause a fight or anything, but it's like, and it's just always making that observation, like, hey, in this moment it's fine, but maybe we shouldn't do this next time. So that's my roundabout answer to that.
Yeah, love it, dude. Well, this has been it's been great, Michael. I really appreciate it. I think you shared a lot of great insights and a lot of good advice for everyone listening, man. So
thank you.
Thank you so much
for having me. Appreciate it.
Cool, man. Thank you.